very excited about our next guest, New York Times bestselling author. It's Louise Penny. She's best known for her series of mystery novels that follow Chief Inspector Armand Gamache as he investigates murders in a fictional small town. That small town called, you know it if you read the books, Three Pines. And there is a Prime Video series on her work also called Three Pines, and it will premiere on Friday. Here's a preview.
Tomorrow we need to get statements from everybody who was at the curling match.
And friends and family?
True. And also we have to track down that photographer, Saul Petrov. Any update on the pathology report?
I'll be ready first thing in the morning.
Good. Oh, and a situation room. Agent Nicole, perhaps you can help, seeing as you're local?
Yeah, sure thing.
Good.
And now what do we do?
Now? Well, no murder was ever solved on an empty stomach.
In Penny's new book, A World of Curiosities, Inspector Gamache investigates mysterious objects found in a hidden room, all while being confronted with old memories as characters reemerge from his past. And Louise Penny joins us now. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Baz.
Your 18th
I know.
novel in this
I
series.
just can't. I'm a recidivist.
Wow. Coming up on a 20-year anniversary, and you are always asked
You
where
gonna
you're...
throw a party?
Yeah.
Is that where this is heading?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a cake coming out here.
Come right back here. You're always asked where your ideas come from, and in the acknowledgement section, you talk about it, and you have some theories, but ultimately you say it comes down to a little bit of magic. Can you talk a little bit about that magic?
Well, it's like a pointless painting for me. It's just an idea here, a thought here. I read a lot of poetry, so it's a couplet there, a conversation, and then eventually it all comes together. You hope it comes together. Although my first drafts are...
They don't
Well, they're
resemble
not good.
They're not. Why do you say that? Because in this book in particular, you have a lot of characters, you have a lot of storylines, you tie it all together very nicely.
Woven
but
together, yeah.
Yeah, you did. But I wonder,
Thank
what did your first drafts look like on this book? I can't imagine.
Well, it's more like what they smell like.
What do you mean?
They really smell like something soft and smelly. It's
Oh,
really,
wow, okay.
But
So that's
you
not
know
a good
why?
thing.
I'll tell you why. When I finished the first book and then had to write the second book, and I was terrified, and I went to a therapist, and the therapist said something that changed my life, not just as a writer, but as a human being. She said, the wrong person is writing the book. Your critic is writing the book. You need to thank the critic, you need to bless the critic, you need to show the critic the door. And you need to write with joy, with awareness of how lucky you are, with gratitude. You don't have to get it right. Just throw everything at it. Be brave.
That had to be freeing.
It was freeing because
you don't have to get it right.
Yeah, and be brave.
You
Be
don't
brave.
have to get it right.
By my front door now, it used to be right where I write, I have the last words of Seamus Heaney, who said to his wife on his deathbed, "Noli timere," which means be not afraid. So when I write,
Noli timere?
Noli timere,
Noli timere.
be not afraid.
Be not afraid.
And when I write, I keep thinking that, just be brave, be brave. But as a result, the first drafts have all sorts of crap.
Well,
Then the
this
critic
first
comes
draft-
in,
Yeah.
and that's when the changes
In the
happen.
second and third and fourth drafts, yes, I simplify, simplify, simplify.
Well, it opens with a murder, and, you know, it's a woman, and her two young children are implicated. We won't say how. And then later on, we revisit their lives following the murder of their mother.
Right.
And I wonder how, you say that this story is ultimately about forgiveness.
Yeah, it's about...
I'm trying to figure, a lot of people needed to be forgiven in this story. Lots of people.
Thank God, really,
Yes,
for
yes,
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what a tyranny it is to carry those resentments around with us all our lives. And then, I mean, I talk about the fact, and Gamache talks about the fact, which happens to come from me, that these crimes don't happen on the spur of the moment. They happen because something has, some hook, some barb has gotten stuck there, a resentment that becomes fetid and then explodes out. But if you're able to forgive, you can let it go. Not necessarily for the person you're going to forgive, but for yourself. You have to, it's freeing.
What is it like to see this come to life in a TV show?
Oh, there's a question. You know, John le Carré once famously said that watching his book be turned into a film was a lot like watching an oxen turned into bullion.
Oh, because we're reading that you're not happy with all of it.
Oh, you know what? I struggled. I cried. There were business meetings where I wept. I was so angry. I was so upset by what was happening. Then it became clear that what happens in films and TV, I didn't realize this, and I should have, it was my fault, is also a process. So the first drafts aren't going to be the last drafts. So they got, I would say for me, 80% of it right, and that is
That's good.
astonishing.
I'll take 80%. Especially, let's talk about Inspector Gamache, because you said you based him on a man you wanted to marry.
And I did.
And you did.
And you
I
did.
did.
Wow.
I married Gamache. Well,
We love.
We really do.
Readers will like that as
I
well.
need to start writing and come up with a man I want to marry. Okay.
well, this is I feel
love it.
badly when people come to visit where I live and they realize I have no creativity. I just write what I see every day. And my books are love letters to where I live, which is Quebec, to the people who are in my life. And Gamache is inspired by my husband. So it's extra special to see him brought alive, and particularly by an actor as astonishing as Alfred Molina. I mean, it's just breathtaking.
Well, can't wait to see your next book about a morning show featuring someone named Kate.
But who's the
Gail.
victim?
Yeah.
Who's the victim and who's the...
I don't want to be the victim.
Gail's the love interest.
Yes.
Oh, Gail's the love interest.
Yes.
Okay.
Could I be a love interest? Yeah.
Just make me
Make her
dashing,
hot,
please.
yes.
No glasses. All right. Louise Penny, thank you very much.
Awful. They say writing is actually editing. Good writing is actually good editing. It's you know what? It helped me a lot. I was a journalist for many years with the CBC, which I think is why I have so many murderous thoughts, but that's probably another topic. But what it did help me to do, I used to do documentaries, radio documentaries, and you get very good at listening very closely to what people are saying and how they're saying it, and issues of pacing. And I used to love the editing process of winnowing it down, of understanding what the message is, of what the focus is, of clarity. So what I do is my first drafts are really long because they're all experimenting with this idea and that idea. I start with an idea, of course, and then often it will evolve into something else. And I have to give it that freedom to grow and to explore. By the time I reach the end of my first draft, which is the first draft of this particular book, book 18, which is called A World of Curiosities, was about 145,000 words, which is a lot longer than it should be. And I knew that. But by the time I get to the end, I know what it's about. And so then I go back immediately. Some people give it a pause, but I can't, because by now I've got it all in my hands. I know what it is. So I have to go back immediately and start moving forward through it and start clearing away things that don't fit in with the themes. Because my books aren't about murder, of course. I mean, that is, and they're proudly crime novels, proudly murder mysteries. But I describe it as the Trojan horse that allows all sorts of other themes to be brought into the conversation. And I spent a year writing, so it doesn't interest me to write for a whole year about murder. I want to write about all the repercussions, the harmonics that come out of that. So anything that doesn't fit in with that gets dropped as I move forward, like a bit of like a snowplow. Although I do think of it more like clearing away the merd. But anyway, let's discuss it as snow, and shaping it. And then that's really done with a very sort of a broad trowel. And then I go back immediately and do a third draft. And the third draft really is about pacing. It's about structure. The fourth draft is often more about just making sure that the characters are who they should be. And that's really the fun one, because then I get to put in all these little grace notes, all the little turn of phrases and the conversations that the characters might have, all the fun stuff, because all the serious stuff is already being done. So that's generally it for drafts. And then I send it to my agent and editor, who then sends back more notes than really is necessary. And we do it again. I mean, maybe I'll get to the point where I understand, but right now I don't understand why novelists would kill off their main character. I can understand why they would stop writing, but why murder the main character or kill them off? I don't, and I can't imagine that any writer who does that is actually pleased with it. Maybe the only reason to do it is a sense of control, that way no one else can pick up the character, I suppose. But now people are doing prequels, and it doesn't seem to stop anyone from writing new Agatha Christie's and other books. There was nowhere else to go. I had tried every agent who that I could find, who represented crime novels. I had tried every avenue I could find. What broke it for me was that I entered the manuscript into a best unpublished first novel contest. And there are quite a few of them. And after my experiences, Michael and I helped set up one here with the Crime Writers of Canada. So if you're a crime novelist, look at the Crime Writers of Canada CWC website. There is the best unpublished novel category. But there are others. And I happen to have entered one in the US, in the UK, and was shortlisted. And that's how I found my agent. Now, essentially, I just open up a whole, a can of jelly beans and just sit and watch Netflix with my feet up it's really ugly. It's, if you imagine Clara, that's essentially me with like jelly beans and gummy bears in my hair and not caring.
When I started the series, I was thinking of Agatha Christie and Poirot, and how sad it was that Christie grew weary of Poirot very quickly. And I thought that's, that the whole world loves this character except his mother. And I thought, the reason, there may be many reasons, but I think one of them may have been that Poirot never evolved.
Right.
He was essentially the same character in The Mysterious Affair at Styles as he was at the very last. And so I knew I wanted my characters to evolve and in still life, that we have a sense that we have joined a life in progress. Mm-hmm. So there are mysteries. Why has Gamash's career stalled? What is the relationship with the son? Why are things going right and why are some things going wrong? That we haven't just created a human being, we've joined him in midlife. But I had no idea where it was going to go.